fruit snacks.
Yeah, I've got these. I'm rolling on Dora the Explorer fruit snacks right now.
Okay, so long as you're upfront about the fact they're Dora the Explorer.
If I had some left, I'd even show you. They were like, you know how like normal fruit snacks come in all different colors? These were just like different shades of pink. I have a 3-year-old, all right? And I also love fruit snacks.
Yeah, same here.
Don't judge me. So on this week's show, we're still going to go with the original topics, but of course there's also been some news that we will get to here in a little bit that has a major impact on this show. But first off, we're going to be discussing 4K and if it's ever actually going to take off. And I gotta say this, when I was at CES this year, I was looking at all these gorgeous 4K televisions. And then I walked around with Ashley Esqueda, and she showed me the 8K television.
That's right.
And I was like,
God.
But 99.9% of people don't even have 4K yet.
Sean, was there a perceivable difference between 4K and 8K? Like a genuinely perceivable difference?
There actually was. I
don't doubt it.
The 8K, I got as close to the screen as I could. I mean, I was like millimeters away from that screen. I still could not see pixels.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
As cool as that sounds, and I think this is going to be the direction for today's topic, what devices are outputting at 8K right now?
None.
Sony. I wrote a story last week about like Sony's financial troubles and just how the PlayStation line is doing awesome. Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but the mobile line is doing okay.
Yeah, it's coming back a little bit. Yep.
Their PC line is in the can, and they're actually selling it. Their physical media production line, that Blu-ray line, is in the can. They can't sell it because it's just not even worth anything anymore. And their television line, they decided back in February to just say, screw it, we're going high-end TVs, 4K, 8K, here we come. But the PlayStation 4, arguably Sony's like biggest and most successful product right now, doesn't output to 4K. Like it stops at 1080p. So like why? I mean, I believe that it outputs digital video to 4K, but like all the games that people are buying it for, they're stopping at 1080p. Like why are we getting excited about 4K right now?
I'm with you. I still can't even get excited about it, but I understand there's excitement around seeing new TV shows are coming out in 4K, and like it sounds awesome, sounds futuristic. But for me, I honestly don't care. Like 1080p is good enough for me, and I think the jump to 1080p was huge. And now I'm like, until they come like way down in price. I'm talking a couple years from now. Not for me.
You guys have seen 4K on a show floor environment. I have not, because no game outputs to it right now that I've seen at a show. I'm sure that there are some PC games obviously that do, but the stuff on the show floor is by and large either console or running on a PC at like a 1080p-ish visual.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something? If I get a 4K TV tomorrow, okay, and I have my couches like the standard 10 feet away or whatever, am I gonna be able to sit here and watch TV and think, man, that looks amazing?
No, not unless it's 4K content, right? Unless I'm wrong, Sean.
Yeah, and here's the thing. What a lot of people don't know, and I actually did not know this until I went to the Sharp presentation at CES this year. If you hook up a 1080p only source to a 4K television, a lot of them it is not compatible. Now, Sharp released 3 new lines of televisions this year, and I think it was the Aquos Q Plus line is their middle tier, and it's actually a 2K television that upscales to 4K and is like 4K ready and can still play 1080p content. And the thing was that it's only slightly more expensive than a regular 1080p television at this time. That being
that's
said,
arguably a good purchase.
Exactly.
Work for me.
But like you were saying, Todd, I mean, the leap from 480p to 1080p was a world of difference.
Mm-hmm.
And while 4K is crisp and clear and gorgeous, it's not as discernible of a leap as that leap was.
Yeah.
This is the law of diminishing returns that we see happening in gaming all the time. The difference between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One and the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 compared to the difference between the Xbox and Xbox 360 is slimmer.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Nintendo next to the NES is gigantic, but then the NES next to the GameCube starts to narrow. The GameCube next to the Wii starts to narrow again, and Wii U it narrows again. That diminishing returns factor applies more to the visual nature of technology than anything I can think of. I mean, we're getting to a point now where we're starting to improve subtleties and nuances, and I don't know if that is enough to encourage most consumers to cough an extra $5K up for a television.
Right, and it's funny, when I look at the older TVs today, and I'm talking just like 3-4 years old, the first thing I notice is the change in the bezels and stuff and how thick they used to be. And that, to me, is a bigger improvement, that we've come to these thinner TVs with thinner bezels than, the pixels on the display.
Sure.
I think it just looks better in a living room and everything.
I agree with that.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, some of the televisions I saw at CES this year, I mean, the bezels on the side and the top are so narrow that they're...
Yeah, it's like gone.
Yeah, they're almost gone, and so it's gotten to the point where it is like a floating picture.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be happy to hang that on the wall in your house.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think the difference between 4K and 1080p is going to make that much of a difference. I do agree with you, Ty. I think it's the physical design of the televisions that's making the bigger difference right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of takes your breath away at CES. Even you're walking, yes, they're 4K TVs, but they're also like 82 inches, and you're like, whoa, this is cool, and it looks amazing because it's so thin and all that. So it's this whole package, I think, that's really compelling to me. Maybe not so much the actual panel.
I think what we're seeing right now, and what I think has me kind of wary of 4K, is the same thing that had me wary of smart TVs and 3D TVs and everything else. TV manufacturers are starting to struggle to come up with ways to sell you televisions.
Right.
If you look at them, for the longest time, the biggest way to sell a new TV was display size. Well, then it became rear projection versus tube televisions. Then it became plasma versus rear projection. Then it became LCD versus plasma. Then there's this whole OLED argument going on right now. It seems to me that the higher end this stuff goes, the less of a reason there is for consumers to switch. And at a certain point, and I'm not saying that this is the case with 4K, but I am saying that at a certain point, TV manufacturers are going to start to go into basically snake oil salesmen. The discernible difference between the products is going to be so negligible that it's just them trying to meet their bottom line, not consumers trying to get the best picture that they need in their household.
Yeah, certainly. It's like the price collusion thing, too. Remember, they were caught, we were just reading about that the other day, but Samsung and others had been caught, trying to set the prices of TVs so that they were expensive. I mean, so that they could keep the prices up. So everybody were selling expensive TVs, even though the prices for them to make them were dropping.
Right.
And I don't trust TV makers.
I don't either, man. The whole salesmanship of a television is wrong. I mean, the show floor mentality of televisions is wrong. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's like used cars.
Yeah, the TV section's almost always, I don't get much time to go out on the show floor when we're at CES because of how busy we are, but I always do make sure to walk through the TV pavilion because that's kind of my area of coverage. And you kind of have to, like every 20 feet, you have to pinch yourself and remind yourself that you are in a show floor environment.
Right. It will not look like this at home.
Yeah,
exactly.
Calibrated perfectly.
Yeah.
By somebody who's paid $2,000 an hour to do it.
Yeah, but Best Buy will come out and do that for $200 if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that whole mess. Well, we're getting a lot of questions about 4K, so let's jump into a couple of these here. We've got one from Future Game Dev. If 4K took off and 1080p became somewhat obsolete, what would replace 4K in the future? Well, I think we already kind of covered that. There's already 8K sets. They're not readily available, but it's out there. And at that point, I mean, you have to wonder if the cameras would potentially burn off the actor's face from the amount of information it was gathering.
The pitch is going to change soon, guys. If my point with that whole bit about snake oil salesmen, the pitch it has to change. They can't keep pitching consumers better picture because my mother can't even tell the difference between 720p and 1080p. How is she going to know what the difference between 4K and 8K is?
I can't tell the difference between SD and HD. I was at a restaurant once, and we looked up, and just because it was a big screen TV, she was like, "Wow, that looks so great." And I was like,
it was a standard. It was a standard.
It was an HD TV, but with an SD feed coming in, and I was just like, "Oh boy."
Oh, my parents do that.
But that's exactly the point.
Every time I go see my parents, I have to pick up the remote and unstretch the image every single time. It's without fail. I go in and they just have like a 4:3 image stretched. Now it's HD.
Hi, Dad. Where's the TV remote?
That's the point.
The pitch has to change. Maybe it's smart televisions. Maybe it's going to go the way of TVs with games in them. I don't know. But the picture quality isn't going to be enough for too much longer.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I totally agree. I think that's why we're seeing so many television manufacturers now starting to add apps, and making sure that like Netflix is built in, Hulu Plus is built in, Amazon Instant Video, and so on. And they're even giving them dedicated buttons on the remotes.
Right.
So I think that's actually going to be the bigger deciding factor for a while than what the resolution of the television is. Now, Todd, this question's for you, and I actually think we know the answer to this one from Sahal Raja. Will 4K be on tablets? I think Asus is doing one.
Yeah, I think we've heard from several people that they're moving there. I mean, if we've heard they're going on phones, they should appear on tablets too.
I have to ask.
Again, the big thing.
What's the point, Todd?
Yeah, exactly. The big thing is like sort of what's the point? I think to me 1080p is pretty sharp. I mean, it's sharp enough. I have no qualms with what exists out there now. And then with 4K, you're going to be really drinking up the battery life. So. Right now, to me, battery life is so much more important than a display is.
I completely agree with that, Todd. The trade-off for upgrading a display to 4K in battery life alone is a big enough mitigating factor for me to never buy that device.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're finally getting to the point where batteries becoming better with the current generation of flagships. We have the Xperia Z2, Z2 if you live in the UK. The Galaxy S5, HTC One M8, all of them are doing fantastic jobs with battery life. And then what are we going to do? Put a new panel on it, and it's going to be sharper, and then we're going to lose the gains we've made? I don't know.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to me.
And I personally, this is coming from someone who did audiovisual like tech and installation as a career for a while before I started writing about games on the internet. I used to tell clients like until you get a big enough display, you really don't need to worry about resolution. And if you put a 4K display in this, I don't really think it's going to be worth the extra expense and loss of battery life. I really don't.
Yeah, didn't they used to say like 720p didn't really matter until you hit 40 inches at the distance you sit down on a couch or something?
It's all about size, and there's calculators on different websites, but it's like, okay, so if your couch is 6 feet away from your television, you would want a 32-inch television at 720p or whatever. Mm-hmm. Once you get like above 40 inches, that's when 1080p starts to become a bigger deal.
Right.
Now we're gonna go 4K. I mean, unless
5 inches.
Right. But that's exactly my point. Like, why?
Yeah.
No,
I guess
totally
you're
agree with
closer
you
to the phone than your TV, but I mean. Again, I'm perfectly satisfied with 1080p on a phone, so I don't know why we need to go further. But
yeah, no, there really is no reason. A couple more questions related to 4K coming in here from Sasha Bahal. Do you think 4K will actually take off or go the way of 3D TV and the dinosaurs?
Depends on price. If it comes down in price, it'll take off because that's just and probably to what Joey was saying earlier, we're going to be marketed 4K till we bleed out of our eyeballs. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're going to buy 4K.
Yeah, and I think 3D was an anomaly in that nobody wanted to wear the stupid glasses.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to let 3D take off for decades.
Yeah.
In cinema, at home, 3D was... Study your film history, specifically your American film history, and you'll find out that 3D movies was something that they did in the 50s and 60s because home television was killing theaters. It was killing them. So they came up with ways to get more people to say, oh man, the cinema is much better than my house. It has 3D. Like, that was one of those things. It was a pure and simple gimmick made up to drive people to movie theaters.
Interesting.
There's no reason to have it at home. I don't 3D doesn't make movies better. I'm sorry. It just doesn't.
I agree.
No, yeah, it makes them annoying for me.
Right.
The first 3D movie I saw in the theater was back in the 80s, Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone.
How'd that go?
It's the only other 3D movie I've ever seen in the theater was a partially 3D movie, and that was one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Okay.
But I have not seen any of the 3D movies since Avatar. I didn't see Avatar in 3D. As a matter of fact, I didn't see Avatar until it was on cable. But yeah, I have zero interest in 3D at home. I have zero interest in 3D at the theater.
4K is... There's a lot of people that say 4K is a gimmick, and I can understand that line of logic, but to me, 3D is like the definition of gimmick.
Yeah.
4K is an upgrade that may not be perceivable to the general public, but it's not a gimmick. The technology is actually there to make a picture's quality better. 3D TV, in my opinion, is it's an unnecessary gimmick. Is my point.
Yeah, I think they're two slightly different beasts that we're talking about here, and I can see where people would put them in the same category, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Joey. 3D is very much a gimmick. 4K is just a natural progression of the technology.
Right.
Yeah, 3D, whatever. No interest in...
Oh, man, remember 3D phones? Awful. And I guess Amazon's trying to do that again.
Ron had one.
Yeah, we had a bunch of...
It's in his profile picture on the site.
Really?
Yeah, it's a picture of him holding out a phone. It says 3D. I think it was 3D Evo.
That's awesome.
Future Game Dev asks, will 4K ever be as affordable as 1080p? Probably.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, with any new technology, they have to get to a tipping point with the price where they've got enough consumers purchasing it. So, and I think 4K. I mean, the prices of 4K televisions have dropped drastically even in the past 12 months.
Yeah, like I remember when LCD computer monitors were coming out, and they were like $1,000 for this 13-inch with no viewing angles, and now you spend less than that for a 50-inch TV at Best Buy. So.
Yeah, no, if you look at what flat panel monitors have done, that's a perfect example of how technology hits a tipping point and then it gets affordable for everybody. You just need those first few suckers to.
You need us. You need us. You're welcome, Earth.
And as much as I'm a sucker, a lot of times for early adoption, I have not purchased a 4K television because
I haven't bought a new TV in like 7 years.
Yeah,
I got one for my wedding. That's it.
Your wife lets you put a TV on the registry?
It's like a thing. All of my college buddies, whenever one of us gets married, we buy each other a TV because we know the wife isn't going to allow us to.
I wish my friends did that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. There's been 3 of us so far. So, like, our present to everybody is go in on the latest TV that you can get.
This has got an embarrassing lap dance.
Also from Sasha Bahal, what should be the next big thing for TVs? I think I already said that a little bit. I think it's going to be making the connectivity of the television that much easier, be it Netflix, Hulu Plus, or
smarter integration of apps, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's what I would say.
Apps are so clunky now. That's why I think LG is probably doing something cool with WebOS. We saw that.
They need their own apps are horrible, man.
Yeah, that's why they're having their own operating systems. There's a couple powered by Android. I haven't used them in real life yet, but I think when they have their dedicated processors in a real operating system, that's where things should get smoother.
I agree.
Well, a good example is my Samsung television at home. It has Netflix built into it, but my parents are more comfortable with using the Roku, even though it means switching input and everything else, and getting to the apps is built into the remote. It's just so much clunkier than the Roku interface.
Yeah, it's the same. I have friends that have a Wii U. A specific couple has a Wii U, and they have a DVD player and a television and a bunch of other stuff that has Netflix on it. But just because of the UI of the Wii U, it's much easier for them to pick up and launch that than to do it inside the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's crazy when TV manufacturers are selling televisions with this stuff built in, but it's done so horribly that people are actively going out of their way to try something else. It's like, I see that you have the application there, but it's crap, so I'm just going to do it this way.
Yeah. I mean, 2 of the televisions in my house have Netflix built in, and both those televisions have Rokus connected to them.
Yeah, mine has it built in. I don't think I've ever used it.
Yeah.
I just used the,
Why would you?
I know.
Why would you? This is a hassle. How many different times are you going to sign in Netflix in your life?
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see here. From Sahil Raja, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Will Sharp only be the only one to have an 8K TV, or will other companies compete? Actually, it wasn't Sharp that had the 8K TV on the show floor. I think it was Samsung. You kind of get lost when you get into the TV pavilion. But no, there's going to be other companies with 8Ks, but I figure it's going to be a good 8 to 10 years before we see them on the market at an even remotely consumer price. It's going to be quite a while. I wouldn't even be pondering 8K yet. I just don't even worry about it.
Samsung and Sharp both have them, by the way. I just checked it out.
Thank you.
Got it. Future Game Dev asked a question about, can you find that one? How long will it take game makers to move to 4K? I think it's an interesting question. I think it's the threshold there for 4K's jump relies heavily on the game consoles, and the issue is that right now PC game developers could probably put out a game in 4K tomorrow. That could happen. PCs have they have no high cap. You know what I mean? Consoles, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 just launched. If they follow the life cycle of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, we are 7, 8, 9, 10 years away from home consoles that can natively output video games to 4K. We're 7 to 8 years from that.
That's wild to think about.
Yes.
Because TVs we're gonna have those TVs much sooner than that.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll see sports in 4K, we'll see movies in 4K, video games in 4K on televisions. Unless you've got a PC hooked up to your TV, that's not going to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Actually,
totally
correct
agree.
me if I'm wrong, Sean. Do sports? Don't they still come in? Or both of you guys through 720p? A lot of them.
I have no idea. I stream all my sports from the internet.
I believe a lot of sports are up to 1080p. Matter of fact, ESPN even experimented with 3D sports, but that didn't last long.
Everyone did. I wonder if you take all of the money spent on trying to push 3D and like put it, I don't know, into the Social Security fund, like, how set would like retirees be?
Well, Sean's going to be okay, but we're out of it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Sean. So keep those raises coming, bud, so you have some more money laying around in Social Security.
Now, actually, and this is an interesting point. I've never spoken about this with either of you, so I'll see.
Oh, here we go.
You know what is actually more important in sports broadcasting, watching a sports broadcast on your television, than the resolution?
Frame rate.
That would be
the
my
refresh
guess.
rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a world of difference. If you go out on like Black Friday and you find these cheap televisions that are like, oh wow, it's a 55-inch television, but it's a 60 hertz refresh rate.
Yeah.
It's going to look so bad when you watch anything that's fast moving, like you say a soccer game. 120 hertz will be okay, but 240 hertz refresh is really what you want if you're going to be watching sports.
Well.
So
for me.
So I'm going to skip the second topic that we had about fake rumors, because the 4K conversation ran a lot longer than I expected. But there's another story that came out just today.
Oh, here we go.
That anybody that has listened to Tech on the Range will know this is a momentous day.
I mean, even this show.
Even this show, it hasn't been quite as thick.
Well, it's about to get thick, Sean.
But 2 Pokemon remakes were announced today.
Woo!
Alpha Sapphire and Omega Red.
Yeah.
I'm still working on the last 2, or the last, one.
Yeah, same here.
Get your
Joey,
mind.
take it away. What does this mean for the world of Pokemon?
I don't know. I mean, this is a generation people really love. I loved Ruby and Sapphire, and the Hoenn region's probably my favorite out of all the regions that we've done in Pokemon. So, what is it again? Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, just based on the box art alone, it looks like we might be seeing Mega Evolutions. The trailers and the press release say a new adventure in a new take on the Hoenn region. So,
now here's my question: having never played any of the remakes, now I know that X and Y introduced some new tools in the game. Will those carry over to the remakes, or will these keep the same mechanics?
Probably. Typically with the remakes, they're not just point for point ports. They actually carry in the additions that the series has made. If you play a lot of Pokemon, you know that a lot of times the evolutions inside the game, and I don't mean literally the Pokemon evolutions. I mean the mechanic evolutions are typically really convenience based. So being able to trade while you're anywhere in the game instead of having to jaunt back to a Poke Center, like that was a big deal. Stuff like that will probably be pushed into these remakes. So the convenience mechanic changes will still be there, which is awesome. Because there's a lot of stuff about the old Pokemon games that make them not unplayable, but harder to get through than the new ones.
I have a question that actually goes into the topic we were going to talk about with leaks. In the mobile space, all of this stuff, these days it's just leaked months and months ahead of time. Were there any leaks showing this? Because it seemed to me like a surprise today.
Pretty much.
How does Nintendo do this?
Nintend's
every other company.
They're an iron trap, man.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, their stuff doesn't leak out unless they want it to, or something big happens. The Wii U leaked out a little bit early, but that was like the last time that's really happened. This one, they dropped hints in X and Y that we were going to see a Hoenn remake. So
Nice.
if you play the game and you have an intimate knowledge of Ruby and Sapphire, you're like, oh man, that's a Ruby and Sapphire reference. And they referenced it again and again and again. And then one NPC was like, you should come, or I should tell you about the region I'm from, but you'll see it soon anyway. And that was like a big clearly something's going to happen. So
It's funny though, and I wrote an article on this on the site that in mobile we don't have these kind of joys anymore where you're like, whoa, I haven't seen this, because we've seen everything months before they're announced.
yeah, that's why E3 is still like Christmas. The mobile industry doesn't really have that anymore.
No, we don't.
Sucks.
Well, I wonder, Todd. I wonder if it's the fact that there are so many more hands that have to touch a physical. I understand, game cartridges have to be made or game discs have to be made, but they don't have to be made as far in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many more hands that have to touch, say, an iPhone. There's the computer graphics guys that have to make the schematics. There's the people that have to make the molds. There's the actual production line. I wonder if it's just because there's so many more points of potential leak.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that, these days we even are seeing press images months ahead of time. It's like had we seen these Pokemon, like the box art, 4 months ago.
Just wouldn't happen. I think the way that the production happens is just so completely different. And the AAA shooter team is 300 people, and those 300 people are 300 people that are intimately working on the project from start to finish. The team that works on a phone, you've got the R&D team, you've got the engineering team, you've got the design team, you've got there's so many
marketing team, the carriers,
right. So there's a lot more links along the chain that should and could break.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I don't see it fixing anytime soon either.
Do these places pay for rumors and leaks? Does that happen?
it does happen.
Yeah, I'm not paying, but they do place them for sure. Yeah, I wrote an article on that once too. I've even worked at sites before where sort of you have like a marketing person come in. They're like, hey.
No, I meant the other way around. Does the site pay for?
Oh, I think that used to happen a lot more, but I'm not sure if it happens that much anymore. I don't know. I'm sure
we
it
hear
does.
rumors every so often, of somebody paying bounties, but
Yeah. Well, you look at like the Gizmodo thing where they paid for that iPhone forever ago.
Right. Yeah.
And just for the record, TechnoBuffalo has never paid for a leak and never will pay for a leak.
Yeah, no.
Don't you love it when I don't know if you guys get emails. This is kind of off topic, but kind of not, where you get emails from people that are just like, hey, we have a story about our product that we'd like you to run, and we'll pay you to run the story. And then I'm just like, no, I'm good.
I actually have a folder in my Gmail account, my personal Gmail account from when I used to work at another site, and I won't say the name of the folder on this show because we try to keep it clean.
Oh boy.
Starts with an A, ends with an S. It's people over the years that have emailed me and gone, hey, could you go back and edit that one post you did and include our company, and we could make it worth your while.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I do reply to those people and tell them that what they are doing is completely and totally unethical.
Oh, I don't even reply.
I've never replied.
I just delete
them.
Yeah. No. Not good.
After they take me to dinner and stuff.
That's definitely a topic for another day that we should cover about, we do get questions about the fact that we sometimes have dinner with, people from these companies, but it does not influence what we write in any way, shape, or form. I think every writer has to be able to separate what is done in a friendly manner. And you have to sit down and talk with these people, and you all have to eat. Sometimes you sit down and eat with them.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever gone out to dinner with a PR person from gaming, though. That's just never happened.
Yeah, it happened a lot when I was in the toy industry. They would take me to dinner, and I'm like, I'm still going to tell you what I think of your line.
It sucks.
I actually did that once to a company. I won't say what company or what toy line it was. And by the end of my showroom tour, the vice president of Boys Toys met me at the end of the tour.
Nice.
It had already gone back to him what I had said.
Oops.
Nice.
And he's like, "Can we fix it?" I was like, "No." And it lasted one cycle of release, and there was never a second series of that toy line.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
I called it right. But anyway, so let's go ahead and take some off-topic questions. We've got a lot of different questions coming in here. We've got one here from Rockster103. Do you think the upcoming Apple iWatch might match the sales of the rest of the Apple lineup?
I don't know what you mean by sales, like because different units sell different quantities across. But I think I wrote an article about this too. I think the iWatch, if it exists, and personally I think it does, but I don't know. If it exists, I think it has the potential to bring wearables mainstream.
Sure.
Because I think it's the brand, and like I was saying, I think a lot of people, like my family members that know that there are smartwatches out there, are sort of like, well, is Apple going to do it too? Like, what are they going to do? And I think a lot of people, whether they're fans of Apple or not, just want to see what Apple does. And I think, for that matter, what Google does now with the Google Wear. Although I don't think Google Wear is something my mom would ask me about, for example. I think she's more inclined to ask about Apple. But
I personally don't see it ever reaching the same level of sales as phones. Just anyone's wearables, not even Apple in particular.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
it's just it's a need-based market, and I guarantee most of the market base doesn't need a wearable.
Yep, I'm with you. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think it'll do well. I don't think it's ever going to be. We're never going to hear Tim Cook on the earnings call going, "We moved 92 million iWatches this quarter."
Oh, I bet we do, because nobody really thought the iPad was going to do that well, right? And then all of a sudden, I mean, I don't know, but if it's really health focused and it does a really good job, then people might be like, "Whoa, this is cool." I don't know.
Question from Sachin Bahal, just because it made me chuckle. Hey, Sean, what about all those gold bars that you get from Google and Apple? Well, I'm redoing part of my house right now, and I've got so many of them now.
They're in the closet behind you there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's behind the curtain.
Lift the sheet. Lift the sheet.
It's just a huge pile of Google and Apple gold bars that are sent to me on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know what to do with them all anymore.
What do you think his desk is made out of?
I don't know, dude.
I melted some of them into a dog dish, because I have 6 dogs, so I was just like, might as well.
Might as well.
Yeah, because I look like I have piles of gold bars.
Right. Right.
Now here's an interesting question from Rockster103. How long do you think Apple will keep going with the iPhone until people stop buying it?
Yeah, I mean, you still keep seeing record sales, so it's
no reason to stop. The brand, it is synonymous with smartphones still in the casual consumer side of the industry.
Yeah. I think somebody, be it Samsung or LG or whatever, they would have to come up with a phone that was as impressive as the iPhone, and I'm not slamming the phones from anybody else, and B, have as catchy a name.
Yeah.
So really weird. The way that Apple either purposely or accidentally position themselves with their branding leading up to and after the release of the iPhone is wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, because I mean, as much as say I love my LG G2, I don't think you're ever going to hear anyone going around going, "Oh man, the G2s." Yeah, it's not as catchy.
Yeah. And you see Apple's able to compete. I mean, Samsung's still beating by sales by a huge margin, but Apple still competes on a global level with its, arguably a single phone, but a little family of phones, versus Samsung's huge, massive family of phones, and Android, millions of different phones out there, which is really impressive to see.
Yeah. From Future Game Dev, have you heard anything about the next version of Android yet? Not really.
Yeah, no, I don't think we saw. I mean, we just saw the leaked sort of icon pack, but we don't know how legitimate that was. And then it addresses, I guess, a lot I right? Which is what we've heard. But I don't know. I mean, we also heard.
I'm wondering though, do they mean 4.4.3 or I assume they mean 4.5?
Yeah, but I think that even 4.5 was supposed to be sort of, addressing bugs and some UI changes. But I don't know. Google I/O is going to be really interesting, I think, especially with Project Aura. I mean, it's supposed to. The next version of Android should support modular-based smartphones too. So I think there's going to be a lot to discuss, and probably how it works with Android Wear and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and of course, what will it be called?
Yeah.
From Oh boy, I'm going to murder your name, and I apologize in advance. Mehdi Mubarak, I think, and I apologize if I got that wrong. Can Apple introduce iOS 8 without the iWatch on June 2nd? They could announce the iWatch at WWDC, but not ship it out, kind of like the first iPhone, iPad, and Mac Pro. They were not available to ship until a couple of months after being announced.
Yeah, to me, I don't. Well, at least according to several reports from people who are usually accurate on it, WWDC is not going to have any new hardware. The only reason it would make sense, though, is that they have a room full of all of their best developers there. So why wouldn't you announce a new platform for them to work with? But if the current rumors are saying there's not going to be an iWatch at WWDC, and it'll be, I guess, even iOS 8 and some of the new features coming there are going to be sort of pushed off later. But hopefully we see HealthBook and stuff.
Yeah. Joe, you already kind of addressed this one. This one comes from Tehran Sorensen. How long do you think the consoles will last?
Yeah, I mean, if they follow the life cycles of the previous ones, 6, 7, 8 years. I think the only console that's on the verge of getting replaced is the Wii U.
Yeah.
It's just not performing well. Nintendo even adjusted their financial expectations for the first time since the thing has been out. They expect it will only sell 3.6 million this year. That's a horrible, horrible figure. It's realistic, but it's horrible.
Wow.
So I imagine that they'll probably put out a new console, which might actually be really good for them. I've been thinking about this a little bit, and it's if Nintendo puts out a new console in the middle of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One's life cycle, they have a big chance of running away with it. I don't know if it'll ever be able to compete with those others, but that's where they are right now. As for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, they just came out. People are asking about when the next ones will come out. That's crazy talk. Just relax.
A decade.
Yeah, basically a decade. And the hardware manufacturers want them to last as long as possible. So it's in their interest to keep them around longer. So.
Well, you were going over the Nintendo quarterly financials today, and you did point out that one very interesting thing to me about how much money has been spent on R&D in the past fiscal year. Yeah,
it jumped from what was it, 50 billion yen, basically $500 million to over $700 million in a single year. So there's Nintendo suddenly putting 200 million extra into R&D, and that's a lot of money.
Hopefully into multitasking on the 3DS.
I would expect that that's all she wrote for the 3DS and Wii U, that they're just going to kind of live out the rest of their lives in retirement communities. But they're both awesome systems. The 3DS is a killer system. It really is. I have a feeling that they're going to wind up putting out new ones soon. So.
Now, this question comes from a S. Ani in Kirksville, Missouri. He would like to know, does vanilla ship here in Radiant Sapphire?
No, unless they put the current gen in there as well, which they could, or the previous Gen 5 or 6 or something. I don't know.
It's just not a Pokemon conversation if we don't mention Vanillish at least.
Thanks, bud.
I'm here for you, Joey. I'm here for you.
I noticed.
We're going to take one last question here, and here is a interesting one that applies to a lot of different fields. This comes from the Motion 91. What do you guys think about Google Glass parts costing only $80?
Well, I think there's a big. Well, all right, maybe they do cost $80, but that report didn't consider research and development costs, which you're just talking about, and that's a lot of money. It doesn't cover production or anything like that. I think, sure, we know parts in most electronics are super cheap. That's how they make their money, usually. And I believe it. I don't know about some of the sensors, like the actual the glass bar that sits in front of your eyeball. I don't know what that really costs. But you can't properly say it costs $80 and not consider research and development, which is always taken into a bill of materials.
Right. The research and development on something like Google Glass, aside from the marketing alone, it has to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So that just because it costs $80 for Joe Schmo to buy the parts from manufacturers doesn't mean that it costs $80 to make.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because like you were just saying, Joey, Nintendo dropped over $700 million on R&D last year. They've got to make that money up somewhere.
Right.
Now, $1,500, I don't think it's worth that either, but I think that's why right now this is first gen. It's not the consumer release, and the price is expected to come down.
Right. Yeah.
No, but any electronic out there, you have to consider that part of the price is made up by the manufacturing costs, of paying the factory, the R&D costs, the marketing costs. There's a lot of costs.
Yeah. For context, the Galaxy. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Google also said that they priced it at $1,500 partially to keep it from being too widely out there.
Yeah, because then everybody buys it, and they're like, this thing's buggy and doesn't work, it's crap, and I'm never buying it again. And then, obviously, they don't want that to happen either. It's not supposed to be a consumer launch yet. But to put it in context, the Galaxy S5 parts, I think, were like $265 per unit, and that includes the manufacturing and stuff like that. So, and I think the most expensive part is usually the display, and on Google Glass, obviously, it doesn't really have that kind of display, but
right.
So,
yep.
And Samsung sells that for what, like $600 unlocked, so you can see that.
Around there. All right, so that's going to bring episode 9 of the TechnoBuffalo Show to an end. As always, we appreciate you joining us. As we also appreciate if you can go over to iTunes and rate and review the show. That does actually help us. Actually was the word I was looking for. You can also find us on the Stitcher app. You can subscribe via RSS feed. We're on Pocket Cast. Pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can find the TechnoBuffalo Show. I've been Sean Ani. I'm the editor-in-chief of TechnoBuffalo. I've been joined by executive editor of Mobile, Todd Hazelton.
Bye, everyone.
And executive editor of Gaming, Joey Davidson.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you back here next week, same time, same place. Till then, take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.